We're talking about a condition called Poland syndrome, which can affect the hands or chest, and it also can mean for women that they're unable to naturally produce milk for their babies. Holly Leppard, it started a campaign to raise more awareness about bottle feeding, but and you get diagnosed with Poland syndrome, and you didn't develop any milk ducts. Tell me then, the bottle feeding abuse that you got. Why did that happen?
Well, it started during the antenatal phase, really. So I was pregnant with my son in 2014, and it was during. As I say, abuse is probably a pretty strong word. There's just a lot of negative connotations and stigma that's actually attached to bottle feeding. People quite often think that you're lazy or you don't realise the importance of breast milk. So it was during the antenatal session that I had that everybody on their first child is offered via the NHS. And at the end of the session, they said, hands up who wants to breastfeed. And of course, knowing that is something that I couldn't do, I didn't put my hands up, and outright in front of everybody, why aren't you breastfeeding? And so I then had to divulge all my personal details in front of everybody, and the very unsympathetic, oh, okay then, and just sort of moved on. Made me feel pretty rubbish, as you could imagine. Yeah. Then when I actually gave birth to my son, I asked, because I had a C-section in the end, so I knew I was going to be in the hospital for a few days. And I said, where can I store the formula? What can I do? And they basically turned around and said, it goes against our hospital policy. We can't actually talk about or promote bottle or formula feeding anyway. To which I obviously thought, well, I don't want you to talk to me about it or sell it in any way. It's just the fact that I actually had to use it. Uh-huh. So that sort of is where it started. And then as I was home with my boy, I just started getting these real feelings of resenting my body and feeling depressed, I suppose, at that my inability to breastfeed. That changed over time. Thankfully, I started looking at what my body could do, which is obviously love, nurture. I was already providing my baby with the best nourishment that I could. And it just sort of spiraled from there. And it was about a year later, I started talking about it online. I had a personal blog at that time. And I had loads and loads of people email me back and message me saying, thank you so much for talking about it in the way that you have. It's not that I want to promote bottle feeding at all. In fact, I think it actually is against EU law to promote bottle feeding in any form or any way. So, I had a lot of that. And then I also had a lot of negative comments come back. I had somebody actually email me and say my baby should be dead. Mm. Yeah, that was hard. And I turned around to my husband at the time and I said, I just broke down on him and said, what should I do with this? And he said, well, if you're going to carry on with this, you're going to have to grow quite a thick skin and realise that some people just will either never agree with you or completely misunderstand the message that I'm trying to put across.
It's quite an irony because, we talk about breastfeeding in public and we get people getting up in arms, and sometimes it's women that get up in arms as well. So, yeah. And then when you do the other one, the bottle feeding, people think you're uncaring, you're mother in terms of just you want to get, you don't want to sort of end up changing your body, due to breastfeeding, etc. And all that kind of kicks in. Well, where are we going to win here? And the judging thing it comes into.
Yeah, I mean, I am one of the biggest advocates for breastfeeding, and there needs to be the support systems in place so that mothers can actually achieve breastfeeding and actually nourishing their child to the levels that the child needs. And yes, society and people obviously not being accepting of breastfeeding in public, it doesn't help. And the all-party parliamentary group that I've actually participated in this year and last year, they work towards obviously raising breastfeeding rates, and they try and focus on eliminating, the stigma in society, which is absolutely fantastic. But my position is so that they can try and do it in a mindful way of people who use formula and bottle feeding. The way to promote something, in my opinion, you don't need to belittle or berate another method to actually get the benefits and your message across about breastfeeding. And, with there are campaigns that even, I think, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, who started this baby-friendly hospital initiative in 1991, that's when I think the change happened, actually, just to say. I think beforehand it was quite socially acceptable to feed your baby however you wanted to. In fact, there was probably more stigma towards breastfeeding in public, and people getting abused because of the sexualisation of the breast over the years, and obviously people not wanting to see that. But since 1991, that's when all the hospitals, all the governments sort of all came together across the world and thought, actually, we need to push breastfeeding, because it is, or breast milk is meant to be a better
and I think that's a really good point about mindfulness, about when you're promoting something, think about the people who probably would like to but they can't. Don't judge, just feed. The campaign, what kind of are you getting a bit of response to the campaign?
Yes, I am. It's kind of taken off in the last few months. I've been doing it since 2016 when I first did this post on my breastfeeding journey. I just wanted to I didn't want to cave to the bullies, basically, and that's what a lot of them were. The people who emailed me saying that I could ruin breastfeeders' journeys. How on earth could I do that when I'm actually just talking about my personal journey and the feelings of depression? Breastfeeding grief is what I like to call it, a period of sadness and resentment, and you feel so isolated when you're in that zone, because people in the medical profession can't talk to you about bottle feeding, or certainly couldn't when I had my son. I think that has changed slightly recently. After the birth of Amadea, I had a lot more support from the midwife, who I really liked. And even in the hospital, a lady came round and she said, I'm often introduced as the breastfeeding specialist, but actually I'm the infant feeding specialist. And that's what it's about. It's about having equality, having respect for all methods of nourishing your baby, because ultimately all we want are happy, fed, healthy babies.
Brian and Lane has just said, Ronnie, I just want to pick up a point that the lady speaking about breastfeeding said it can be illegal to promote bottle feeding. That surely is a choice. Well, it isn't. I think it is illegal to promote.
It is, and actually companies are, they're not allowed to, so for example, Boots and their advantage points, you're not allowed advantage points because it would be seen as promoting bottle feeding or formula feeding.
I can hear Amadea, she's screaming outside, so well done. Well, she's done well. Now listen, promote the website where people could contact you.
Come find us all at www.don'tjudgejustfeed.com. As I say, we're just a big supportive network for any kind of feeding, but particularly for bottle feeders and people who are struggling with their feeding journey.
Great to meet you.
And you, Ronnie, thank you very much.
And keep in touch with us, will you?
Will do.
I'd love to hear more. That's Holly Leppard from Colchester. The campaign is called Don't Judge, Just Feed.